Retro.
Hey, this is Catherine Tabor, Senator Padme Amidala from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Jay and Dennis on Podcast Stardust. Stay on the light side.
Hello and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And it is July, and we are picking up our Revenge of the Sith series with episode 7 in that series. But before we get into that, Jay, remind everybody what our social media contacts are.
Absolutely. We are all over the HoloNet on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is aligned. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield is down. We're now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, as I was saying a second ago, we're going to be getting into part 7 of our Revenge of the Sith series. If you are not familiar with that, and you're a new listener, each year we pick a Star Wars movie, typically one that has an anniversary, and we break down the movie into 10 to 15 minute segments and cover one each month and get to the whole movie by the end of the month. But it gives us an opportunity to discuss the movie in more detail than we would if we were covering the whole thing in one of our usual 45-minute episodes. So we got a great guest for this. We are going to be discussing everything that really has to do with the moment that Anakin turns to the dark side and becomes a Sith Lord. Spoiler alert. If you haven't anyway.
Spoiler alert. Gee, Dennis, come on.
Yeah, really. But anyways, this is a good episode. Great discussion. I can't wait to get into it here. So now we are thrilled to welcome back to Podcast Stardust Tom Gross from Teachers in the Dungeon. And if you are not tuned in to Teachers in the Dungeon, I'm here to tell you have to add it to your playlist. Tom, how's it going this evening?
Oh, it's going well. And thank you for that. I appreciate that. Teachers in the Dungeons had a great run. And so we're so excited for the things that are coming up. But it is always an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys talking Star Wars.
Yeah, we were just saying that you have been quite the veteran here on Podcast Stardust. We're going to have to get you that gold jacket. So stick around so we can get those measurements.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Yes. I've got, for those that can't see, and that's everybody, I'm guessing, I got the lapels right there working on it.
Nice.
The gold jacket.
Well,
Yes.
before we dive into Revenge of the Sith and more Star Wars talk, just take a moment and you and I were talking before we started recording here. You just got finished running your annual summer camp for role-playing games in your community. So what's going on with that? What's going on with the show?
Yeah, so the RPG summer camp that we do with our kids at our school this was our 4th year, and every year it just grows quite a bit. This year we had 37 kids. Last year we had 28. The year before was like 20, and we started with 9. And so it continues to build, and we continue to bring more and more guests from the community of Dungeons and Dragons and role playing, really. That was our goal this year, is to start introducing kids to games other than just Dungeons and Dragons. And so we really put an effort in that. But it's such a great week because the kids come in. First of all, it's July and they're coming to a school right there. Let's just stop right there. And so it is just so cool to hear them all coming in, and they just start conversation and are talking and are sharing. And we can tell that the school community we built with our game club is really strong. But this year we added incoming freshmen, and we added kids from other schools. We had about 6 kids from other schools this year, and they are just integrated into the community. And I'm wondering, does anybody realize that there are people here that you didn't know when the camp started? And they're just talking and having such a good time. And then they spend the mornings each day learning skills like role-playing skills and character creation and creating backstories. Then they learn, I love this, my podcast co-host, Dan Ream, really is passionate about teaching the kids about the hobbies and the side hustles that come along with Dungeons and Dragons and role playing, things like building terrain and miniature painting and 3D printing. And we have a dice maker locally that comes in and makes dice with kids throughout the week, and just showing them all the hobby aspects of it. That's aside from the game, the game itself. And so it just has really become such a fulfilling experience for us that I can't imagine not doing this. And we have so many kids that have graduated from our high school that now come back and they'll dungeon master for the, you know, their peers in the past. And it is just cool. It just, you walk around in the afternoon when the games are going on and you're like, oh, that's an alumni of Game Club. Oh, that's an alumni of Game Club running these games. And they just, you know, it's cool because these current kids in the school, they look up to these other kids. Some of them are legends. One of our alumni, it was like an all-state football player on state competing teams and all this. And the kids know him, you know, they know him as an athlete, but here he is playing Dungeons and Dragons with them. And so it's just, I'm sorry, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, but it's such a great week. And I'm sad it's over, but at the same time, my energy level was kind of like, all right, we're maxing out here. Time for the week to be over. But I'll be honest with you, we're already planning next year.
That's so fantastic, Tom. And that's such a great thing that all of those kids are able to network and that you're able to make other career connections for them, as you said, with hobbying and that type of thing. I'm just curious, as you were saying, with the role playing, what is, besides D&D, what is the newest, hottest role playing game that the kids are really into right now?
So probably the hottest game right now, at least the one that's most discussed, is a game called Daggerheart. It was created sort of as a reaction when Wizards of the Coast said, we're not going to keep our open license going anymore, which that was a whole snafu about a year and a half ago. And that's all been resolved. But this game still came out of that, Daggerheart. Unfortunately, we don't play that at our camp. And it's not that we don't want to. It's just so new that none of us really know how to do it. So probably one of the most popular games that is not Dungeons and Dragons that we do play at the camp is a game called Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is it's just, they kind of took the original first edition Dungeons and Dragons feel and they created a game around it where you start as just ordinary people. And so every player starts with 6 or 7 characters because the attrition is so high in the first like half hour of the game. You know, monsters are vicious and they'll kill off most of your characters. And so you can't get connected to any of them because they're not going to be there by the time you get to your second session. And a lot of times people just use Dungeon Crawl Classics as just sort of a one shot. Can you survive? But there are people who play continuous games and you just got to get through those first 1 or 2 sessions. But Dungeon Crawl Classics is real popular. Paizo has a game called Pathfinder and Starfinder, which Pathfinder is sort of the response to Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, it was made by people who worked for Wizards of the Coast when they switched from 3rd edition to 4th edition. Listen to me, I'm getting into the weeds now. But so you get that. So Pathfinder is really Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. But then what I like about Paizo is the Starfinder, which is the science fiction side of things. And I introduced that to the kids at our camp. And I had a lot of interested kids when I said you can do space battle, and that space battle is actually, the mechanics of it are actually fun and doable, and everybody gets to participate in one way or another. They were kind of like, that's cool. And then I told them that there are vehicles like motorcycles and buggies and Jeeps. They're like, really? I'm like, yep. And so I think I've got some people that are willing to give Starfinder a chance this year in our game club.
That's awesome.
So those, yeah.
Excellent.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, I encourage everyone to go check out Teachers in the Dungeon. I know you all just dropped a recap of your week there at the camp, and you dive into a lot more details. I haven't had a chance to hear it yet, but that is up on my queue for one of my next dog walks in the morning. So I can't wait to check it out. And I live
Cool.
vicariously from that. Go back to my D&D days all the time through your podcast. It's like I said, it usually gets pushed right at the top of my playlist. So anyway,
Oh, well, thank you.
of course. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit of Revenge of the Sith. Before we get into our segment, we like to kind of ask our guests a bit about their experience with this movie. Jay, you want to go ahead and kick everything off?
Yeah, I'd love to. All right, Tom, here we go. So, what was your first experience seeing Revenge of the Sith? How old were you? What do you remember about any specific memories or just in general, what was that experience like?
So I anticipated this question, having the gold jacket.
Yes.
And so the age is about the only thing I can answer with certainty. And I was 35. So I was thinking about why I don't have any memories of going to the theater and watch it. I do have memories, but I don't have any specific memories of walking into the theater or seeing the poster or sitting down with friends. I don't have that. But I was like, so why in the world don't I have any memories of this? Well, I was just married the year before, and I was finishing my 5th year of teaching. I was in the middle of a master's degree, and we were purchasing a house at that time. So I just think all of that, I think life just sort of took over my memory banks there. I know I
Mhm.
saw it. I don't think I probably did not see it on opening weekend, which I think was the 2nd or 3rd week of May that year. But I'm sure I saw it pretty quickly because obviously, Star Wars fan and wanted to see it. But so here's some just things that I can remember about it just in general. I don't know if it's first viewing, second viewing, but I was happy that the CGI wasn't quite as in my face as Attack of the Clones. We didn't have that factory video game feel, the droid factory. I was
Mhm.
sad. I remember feeling very satisfied with how Darth Vader came about. I was really kind of anxious about, is that a story that I want to know? Is that a story, that is going to be satisfying? Um, I remember crying when Order 66 was called and watching those scenes that was just really hard to watch. And then I don't remember if you asked this question or not, but I'll go ahead and say it. I know that my favorite scene from this film when I watched the first time is when Yoda and Palpatine battle in the Senate. And
Mm.
it's just so dramatic, and you just kind of are starting to lose hope for the Jedi and Yoda, and it's just very dreadful watching that. Um, yeah, so
It is.
those are my memories, but nothing specific to sitting down and did I get butter my popcorn or did I not butter my popcorn? I don't remember that. Cherry Coke,
Trivial,
vanilla Coke, I
trivial,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool though. You anticipated the next question we were going to ask you, which was your favorite scene. So you beat us to the punch on that. It's interesting hearing you talk about that because I mean I was a relatively new dad at the time when this came out in 2005. My oldest wasn't even 1 yet, so we had to wait on a babysitter before we could go see it. And then the babysitter canceled after we already had our tickets for our original showing, so we had to burn those because I couldn't find anyone to give them to and go another night. But story I don't think I've told before. One of my favorite memories rather, about seeing Revenge of the Sith at that time. I was at a Wendy's of all places, and I was second guy in line to order my food, and the guy in front of me was had pulled up on his motorcycle, and he had his helmet with him, and he ordered his food, paid for it, and he'd put something down on the counter there, and it was his ticket stub for Revenge of the Sith. We don't even get ticket stubs anymore. I mean, like you order your tickets on your phone and whatever, and so just like this guy who I would not have pegged as interested in Star Wars at all, and I just like had this conversation. And the service at Wendy's was slow that day, so him just like for 5 or 7 minutes, this random stranger and I, a biker of all things, we're just talking about Revenge of the Sith at Wendy's, which I don't know why, of all the Star Wars conversations I've had, that one always sticks out in my mind. but it does. But that was a lot of fun.
I love that. Star Wars in Alderaan places, right?
There you go, Joey. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, since you already anticipated our second scene here, second question here about your favorite scene, let's go ahead and get into the third question is who was your favorite character for Revenge of the Sith?
Oh, great question. Let me work through that just a little bit. I have to stick with my old go-to, and that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He had talk about an emotional roller coaster that he went through in this film. His leadership when he's sent to find Grievous by himself, and just the way in which he handles himself there, and he shows leadership and skill and cunning. And then the final battle with Anakin on Mustafar is just so emotional that I think Obi-Wan is my favorite character in this movie. I want to say by far. I'm probably forgetting somebody. When we look at some minor characters, Bail Organa stands out as a character who is significant in this. But yeah, I think Obi-Wan is my answer to that.
Solid choice for sure.
Yeah, hard to go wrong with Ewan McGregor in this role here. He set the standard with this and brought so much heart and soul to that character. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive into this segment. Just as an aside, when I was trying to figure out where to parse this for this discussion tonight, the problem is just action after action after action after action, and there's hardly an area to come up for a breath. And I try to keep these as close to 10 minutes as I can. And so the cutoff is right before a very dark and disturbing scene in this movie. But that's another story for another day. But there's plenty of things that go on here. It's very action intensive. We are thoroughly into the third act of the movie. It is all pedal to the metal from here on out. I guess I should say the timestamp, which is 1 hour 10 minutes and 52 seconds to about 1 hour 23 minutes and 31 seconds. It's kind of hard to cut off exactly there. And it all starts with Mace Windu and the other Jedi Masters arriving at Palpatine's office. Palpatine's sitting at his desk looking at reports. He's anticipated that they're there because Grievous is destroyed. And then kind of cheekily, Palpatine says, "You're here much sooner than I expected," because he knew this was all coming. And Mace Windu doesn't waste any time. He says, "You are under arrest." The Jedi ignite their lightsabers. Palpatine asks if they're threatening him. And Windu says, "The Senate going to decide your fate." And classic favorite line in my household, "I am the Senate," comes up right after that. And then Palpatine pulls his lightsaber, tells him it's treason, and he attacks the Jedi and wipes out everyone but Mace Windu. So, Tom, we've had the opportunity recently. I don't know if you had a chance to catch the most recent season of Light and Magic, the documentary on Disney Plus about ILM, and we know that they had a stunt actor that they had to transplant Ian McDermott's head on to do all the acting for this scene, which is pretty cool. Yeah, digitally. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do so. But talk to me a little bit about this scene here. Palpatine. This is all part of Palpatine's plan, but how do you think it came off?
Yeah. I didn't know the timestamp. I knew what the timestamp was, but I wasn't sure what the scene was when you had asked me to do this. And boy, you guys are great about giving me just some light and cheery moments of movies.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But this is a magnificent part because the plan is revealed here. And when they walk in, they being the Jedi with Mace Windu walk in, and I mean Palpatine's darn near cheery when he says, "Oh, you're here. It's good to see you. This must mean that whatever." But it quickly turns, and he gets a little shorter and a little shorter, and you can almost see that this like he's making the realization, he being Palpatine's making the realization, this is where I lay my cards down. This is it. They are here. This is the time this is going to happen. It's treason then is just such a great line. And something I noticed about in rewatching this, and I had to go back and listen to it a few times. And I thought, did they add this somewhere? Because I don't remember it being this way. Maybe I just have never examined it so closely. When he flies and spins across the room to meet the Jedi with his lightsaber, there's like growling. It's a deep growl, like a guttural growl when he flies across there, almost like the dark side of the Force is. I mean, I know that's what he's using to fly over there, but it's like it has some sort of a personification of like that growl as he goes across there. So here's something that I've tussled with since 2005. He dispatches Jedi Masters, except for Windu, with such seeming ease. And I've always wondered what people think about that. So I have an answer in my head as to, like, I've sort of manufactured this to make sure it makes sense to me so it doesn't bother me anymore, but that's never gone away. But I like to think that the way I'm thinking about it is right. But what I'm just kind of curious. I'm turning the tables here.
Oh, I'm happy to hear this. This is a great question.
What do you guys make of that? Was it just a decision Lucas had to make, and it was just a logistical decision? We got to get those guys out of here to keep the action going, or is there story to that?
Jay, you want to take a crack at that?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, and it goes back, I think, to what we were just talking about with Palpatine being almost giddy. Oh, you're here much sooner than I expected. He's so happy in a lot of ways to finally, as Darth Maul said, reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we will have revenge. This is that embodied. And for Palpatine, I think some of it was the element of surprise. I mean, Eth Koth, Stacey Tin, Kit Fisto, they all were just 1, 2, 3 dispatched. As you said, these are masters. How could they possibly go back down this fast? Well, one, I don't think they expected it. But, two, to your point, Tom, with that guttural groan as he is coming across there in this whirlwind of lightsabers and robes, is just the dark side embodied. And I think part of that was, again, catching them off guard. And I think that it was by design that he left the most powerful master of all, Mace Windu, to be able to hopefully, as his machinations proved correct, get Anakin to doubt himself and come back and witness all of this. And in fact, he did. So that's my take on it.
All that. And what do we know about the Sith? It's a rule of 2, right? Where it's a master and apprentice, a master to hold power, and apprentice to crave it. I'm drawing on legends. I'm drawing on other sources we got from our current continuity. And you can't become the Sith master until you defeat the Sith master. Whereas Jedi are not about embodying power. They're about, protecting the peace, protecting the light, serving the light, and this, that, and the other. You become a Jedi master based on your service, based on your proficiency with the Force, but it's not about your ability to dominate somebody else. And so the Sith's plan for millennia has been, we're going to bide our time. We're going to defeat the Jedi by being smart, by working from the shadows. There's only going to be 2 of us because, and again, I'm drawing on legends here, particularly the Darth Bane novels. When you had another system, there was multiple Sith, the weaker ones would gang up on the stronger Sith and defeat him and then dilute the power. That's no longer what's going on. You got a guy who beat Darth Plagueis, who beat Darth Tenebrous, who beat all the Sith masters before him by becoming more and more powerful with the Force, the dark side of the Force. And so the fact that he could unleash that on the Jedi, who are not insignificant warriors in their own right, but that's not what they're about. I mean, they're about communing with the Force. They're about projecting the light side of the Force. They're not about death, destruction, power, and the like. So yeah, it is a bit alarming when Sidious jumps into battle, boom, takes out Eth Koth, boom, takes out Sassy Teen, and then just a few minutes later takes out Kit Fisto and then leaves Mace Windu around. But when you take a step back it makes a certain sort type of sense. But you brought it up, and you've got your theory. What is it, Tom?
Yes.
Well, I'm almost embarrassed to say because I really like those two. So I really tapped into my imagination on this one, and the fantasy side of Star Wars here. I like to think that when he flies across there, he is so imbued with the dark side of the Force that he almost slows time down or moves quicker than anybody else can. He's
Mm.
also building off of the take the pawns out first because you know who the big bad is. And so he's using some type of a Sith power to make it to where they cannot respond. Because I mean, in film, they don't even really respond. Like they hardly move before he
No.
makes those attacks. And so I like to think that it's just the power of the dark side that stuns them, and he's able to dispatch them quickly. To me, that makes sense in the film. It makes sense story wise, and it makes me be able to watch the scene and be like, he's awesome. But it also makes Mace Windu seem all the more powerful. We knew that Mace Windu is the best swordsman. At least my impression has always been Mace Windu is the most powerful and best swordsman in the Jedi Masters. And so here he's going to really show that off.
Love that too. I love all these fan theories. Like, it's so much fun to be able to hear other points of view and be able to get whatever we read between the lines kind of things from fellow fans. That's awesome.
Well, and the other thing that's happened recently, Tom, to back up your theory on this is, I don't know if you've played any of the Jedi Order games, the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor games. But in the Jedi Survivor game, there is a dark side power where you can do exactly what you were just talking about.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can slow down. You kind of go, you put everyone into slow motion and you go into a hyper speed, and you can just wipe out everybody on the screen when you call on that. So
there you go.
Yeah, you've got some canon to back you up with that.
Can I also, and I'm sorry, can I also mention in this battle with, I'm not sure how far we got in the preview to what we're going to discuss, but in this saber battle between Mace Windu and Palpatine, there is a moment that I just think is so cool. If you can imagine it, they move the battle into his office, I guess, where he does his paperwork and makes his purchase orders for the Empire or the Republic, whatever he does in there. But they move into his office and they do a cut scene, whatnot. But there's a moment where they are standing across from each other, and Mace Windu has his lightsaber above his head. And then they sort of do this gallop at each other and smack the sabers. Can I tell you, during one of my summer reading events, we read a book called Samurai Rising, and I found a local group that does samurai battle, and it's called Kenjutsu. I think it's how they say it. But they are doing Kenjutsu with that's a Kenjutsu move where you kind of gallop at each other and the sabers above, and you clash the sabers, but you then continue forward and turn. The guy that was running it, he said that Qui-Gon Jinn is his saber style is Kenjutsu, but he said that motion in this battle is definitely taken from and inspired by that samurai sword play, which I just think is cool.
Really cool.
I'm like, somebody studied their stuff, and it was just, I don't know. I just wanted to share that because it was told to me by somebody who is an expert in this and has studied Kenjutsu for so long. But so I thought that was cool that they've got some samurai sword play in this battle, only to show the expertise and mastery of these two.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It reminds me, both my boys are involved in martial arts. They've got multiple degrees on their black belts, and they've been doing this for, a dozen plus years for each one of them. And they've been two of the weapons instructors for the dojo that they participate at But I remember several years ago, before they really achieved the level of proficiency that they had, they went to a weapons camp. The head instructor has had decades of experience with this. And to back up what we were saying is that just think about some of the samurai-inspired stuff that we've seen in Star Wars. The duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul at the end of season 2 of Rebels. It was 2 moves, over. You're right. That's how samurais fought. It was not a whole lot of clash, regroup, fight again. Those battles don't take that long. It's over in a few moves because, people get hit with those swords and the blades and things, and it's over quickly. But similarly, he was talking about how they would protect their weapons, because it's not an easy thing to sharpen a samurai sword and a katana. And so, you would get those blue, if they could not get a blow in quickly, they would run into the person, hopefully bowl them over, and then take them out and the like. But you put on some more specific terminology on that, which I really appreciate, because I could not have done so.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. And of course, Nick Gillard is just extraordinary when it comes to his abilities. And I'm sure that that's where a lot of that came from. And, speaking of which, one of my favorite pieces of trivia is that the Jedi Master Sindralig is Nick Gillard spelled backwards, and that's who played him. And I always loved that piece of trivia. So that's just so cool.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Yep. That's who the Super Shadow fan account used to pretend like he was, if you remember that. But that's a story for another day. We're not going to get into here right now. So in the midst of all of this, I need to kind of catch us up here, because Tom, you brought us into some really great parts of this. So Anakin has arrived at the Senate offices. Mace and Palpatine are in the middle of the duel. The window breaks. Mace kicks Palpatine and he loses his lightsaber. And then Anakin, he kind of does that. I kind of laugh at this every once in a while. It's a super serious moment, but he's on a mission when he arrives, Anakin, right? He's there in a hurry, but then after he parks, he goes into that super fast walk, and he's kind of like organizing his robe, like I'm going to walk in all important, like I'm not rushing to be here at the last second. But then he enters the room, and Mace has got Palpatine cornered up against the window, and he says, "You're under arrest, my lord." And Palpatine's making this plea because he knows he's sold Anakin on this. He says, "Anakin, I told you to come to this. I was right. The Jedi are taking over." Mace's response is, "The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost." And then Palpatine forces the issue. No, you will die. And he uses Force lightning to keep Mace at bay. Everyone's calling each other traitors, and we've got a very emotionally charged scene. And then Palpatine puts it all on the table for Anakin and says, "I have the power to save the one you love. You must choose." And then Mace is like saying, "Don't listen to him, Anakin." And Palpatine ratchets it up again by saying, "Don't let them kill me. I can't hold it any longer. I'm too weak. Help me. And then Mace Windu is, pressing his advantage. "I'm going to end this once and for all." Anakin's telling him, "No, you can't do this. He's got to stand trial." And just when Mace goes to deliver the killing blow, Anakin pulls out his lightsaber, chops off his hand, and he tells him, after he's just told him, "I need him alive." And then Palpatine unleashes the Force lightning on Mace Windu, throws him out the window, and there we are. So Anakin has committed to the dark side here. I've got so many questions, and I don't know this couple of minutes here alone could probably fill up the last 30 minutes that we've got on this. So we're going to have to cut it off at some point. But Tom, it's, one of the things that stood out to me when I was watching this time is that Palpatine throws out in the middle of this confrontation, "I have the power to save the one you love." And Mace Windu's right there. It's just kind of I guess you could say, what does Palpatine have to lose? Either he's going to live or he's going to die. If he lives, it's because Mace Windu's dead, and it doesn't matter. He said that. And if he dies, well, then what does he care if Anakin has suddenly got a difficulty? But at any rate, the revelations and the everything that Anakin's having to take in here. What's your perspective on this? Had Anakin made up his mind when he got here? Did he know he was committing to Palpatine when he arrived, or what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to weigh here, and what I wrote down when I was looking at this again, probably for the how many dozens of times we've watched these films, I feel like he's still struggling. I feel like he has not made up his mind, which is why I think he shows up. I don't think he came to kill anybody. I think he came to see, which so many times I'm like, no, every time I watch this movie, I'm like, no, Anakin, just stay there. Just don't go, stay there. There's so many moments in Revenge of the Sith where I just wish somebody would just have stayed there. But that's great storytelling, right? That's what we want. So some things that I noted is that, Anakin goes through, he knows he's the one that turns Palpatine in, that draws Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters here. So when Anakin shows up, he's using lines like, he needs to stand trial, and no, that's not the Jedi way. But yet then he turns around and he could have just parried Mace Windu's blow, but no, he chops his hand off, as is the Star Wars way. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then after the whole thing is said and done, like that whole moment, he says, what have I done? And I'd like to go back to all these movies and find out, how many times does Anakin say that? Is it just one? Is this the only one? But I feel like there's so many times throughout these films, or the Skywalker story, that he says, what have I done? I'm pretty sure he says it when he massacres the Tusken Raiders in that conversation with Padme. I'm pretty sure there's somewhere in there he says that. I don't know. I'm
paraphrasing some words of the effect, at least. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm not even really sure that he's ready to become Darth Vader here. But because of who Anakin is, and because we know him to be somebody who just goes with the moment, I pledge myself to you. I just wanted to say, why are you doing this, Anakin? But it is his MO the whole time. His whole life has been, well, just, it feels right, so I'm going to do it right now. But there's some things that are drawing him that way. So when Palpatine is just firing that, it's the second round of lightning before he just completely loses his power, which I don't ever believe that he lost his power. I think he's playing the game here, but he says power, unlimited power. And he's, drawing Anakin in to believe that this power is here. And then, like you said, I have the power to save the one you love. Apparently that is, obviously that is all that Anakin can think about right now. Because the other line that really is powerful here, that is, it's almost, I don't know, it's almost disappointing, it's so simple, is when he says, I need him. Man, I wanted Mace Windu to give the father to the son look there, that side eye of, who are you? Like, did I raise you to be that way? What do you mean you need him? Like, I wanted Mace Windu to be like, smack, sit down, son. Stop talking. Let the adults take control here. Because it's such a simple moment, but it is such truth. I need him. And that's all Anakin can think. Good or bad, he's a Sith. He's going to turn. He's going to sit trial, but I need him. Nothing else really needed to be said there. I don't know. I just think there's so much going on here. One more thing, and then I'm sorry, I'll be quiet, is Dan Ream and I talk all the time about alignment and people's alignment, because that's kind of a big deal in Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm always tussling around with the alignment of Emperor Palpatine. And when I say that, obviously he's evil. So he's going to either be chaotic evil, or he's going to be lawful evil, or he's going to be neutral evil. There's a part of me that feels like in this scene, it's going to take us a step further than what you introduced, but it fits here. He does this a couple times also, where he will say, I can help you save Padme. I can help you save Padme. But then he always pulls back on that promise, because after the death happens, after Mace Windu is gone, And Anakin says, as long as you can help me save Padme. And he says, to cheat death is a power only one has ever achieved. And I'm like, oh, Anakin, listen to what's being said. It's too late, but listen to what's being said. And so it's like he's being lawful here. Well, I made that promise, but let's just remember it. No one else has done this. I'm like, oh my gosh. Palpatine.
I love this because it's almost like you were in the room with me when I was writing my notes, because that was the thing I was going to ask you about here. Okay, as an aside, one day you and I need to sit down and talk about alignment, because I don't completely get what distinguishes one version of good or neutral or evil from another. And
it's hard.
I'm sure we could do like an entire hour on it, but that's neither here nor there. But yes, you've brought up a lot of good stuff there, Tom. Not the least of which is that after all these promises that I'm the only one that can help you save the one you love, it's like, well, I don't actually know how to do it, but I'm confident the two of us work together.
Like, oh yeah, okay, now you tell me. Yeah.
We can figure this out. When that's been his entire sales pitch to this movie, it's like, have you ever heard of Darth Plagueis the Wise? A tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Oh, it's not a story the Jedi would tell you, but he was so powerful he could learn how to save people from death. Is that a story? Is that a power that you can learn? Like, not from a Jedi. And then and the segment we just did, it was the only by working with me and learning the dark side will you have the power to save the one you love. And then he throws it out here. It's like, there's no more a dire situation than right here. It's either you save me or I'm going to get killed, and this is taken away from you. And then when it's over, the first thing that's said about it is, I don't actually know how to do this. But we'll figure it out.
and let me say, I don't think it's a flaw in script. I think it's really good writing here. Like, oh,
absolutely.
It's trickery.
Yeah. 100%.
Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, knew exactly what it was that Anakin needed to hear to seal the deal. Even if he could not deliver it, he could leave that lure out there, and he's got sources, he's got the experience, he knows such a thing has happened, but he never has to deliver, because once he gets Anakin to follow the dark side, it's all over. He achieves everything he wants. Okay, we're going to wrap it up right there. This is a very long and in-depth conversation, and quite good, and I don't want to rush it all into a single 45-minute episode for you. So we'll pick it up here next time on Podcast Stardust with our next episode. Normally Jay would be here to help me with the outro for the show, but since I made the decision without her around during the editing process, she's not going to be able to help me out with that. So just want to remind you, if you're new to the show and you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to the show on your podcatcher of choice. You can find our entire back catalog of episodes over at retrozap.com, which is going to give you all previous 915, which is more than what you're going to get on any individual podcatcher. And then if you would be so kind as to leave a rating or review for us on your podcatcher of choice, that would really help us out. Just some of our other contacts, you can find us online. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. We have a Pinterest page. All of our episodes are available over on YouTube, both the video and podcast platform, or the music platform, I should say, although it's just images either way. And then we do have a show store over at TeePublic, and you can find the link for that in our show notes. If you want to find out what Jay is up to in the world of cosplay, head over to Instagram and look up Jay Snips Cosplay. Upcoming on the show, Friday will be the next installment of this series. And then on Monday, I've got some other things that we pre-recorded. So just stick around to find what that is going to be. But with that having been said, thanks for listening to episode 916 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. And until next time, may the Force be with you.